All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my March Madness predictions, men's March Madness predictions. So it's that time of year again. We are a few days away from the tournament. These are the following predictions that I currently have for March Madness. So I'll be going over my Final Four first. Then I'll go into some upsets that I could see happening in the first round. And then I'll go into some sleeper teams that I do believe could be poised to go on a deep run. So let's start off with my Final Four. So this year, my Final Four prediction for March Madness will be Duke, Florida, Michigan, and Arkansas. I have 3 out of the 4 number 1 seeds getting to the Final Four this year. Now, Florida has the easiest path to make it out of the region as the number 1 seed for March Madness, in my opinion. I mean, they got some bumps in the road, possibly in Houston. We could possibly see a national championship rematch, possibly in the Elite Eight. And yes, there's Vanderbilt that blew them out in the semifinals of the SEC tournament. But I do believe that the Gators can get past Vanderbilt in the Sweet 16. I think that's bound to happen. And I do believe that we can win the rematch from the national championship game last year between ourselves and Houston to advance to the Final Four. Now, I'm not going to let that Vanderbilt loss affect my faith in the Florida Gators. I mean, they were one of the hottest teams in the country, still are, heading into March Madness, because they won 13 out of the 14 previous games. Now I'm looking at Duke. I got them getting to the Final Four. In the East region, I think they had the toughest run as a number 1 seed, because I'm looking at everybody that's in the dance here in the East. They got St. John, UCLA, Kansas, and Michigan State. There's some legendary coaches that are coaching this program that have March Madness experience. So it ain't going to be no cakewalk just because they have Cam Boozer or not for Duke this year. But in the Final Four, I'll have Duke versus Florida. This is a rematch from the beginning of the year. Duke won a close game 67-66 earlier on in the season. Now, I want to say the Florida Gators are going to win, but I'm scared because what if the Florida Gators cannot stop Cam Boozer? And what happens if we cannot hit clutch 3-point shots and clutch pivotal moments? Therefore, I'm going to say the Florida Gators do not repeat. And I'm going to say Duke gets to the finals. And I think Michigan's going to dethrone Arkansas, my 4 seed that I do believe will get to the Final Four. So therefore, we have Duke versus Michigan, 2 number 1 seeds in the national championship. And this is actually a rematch from the Battle of DC a few weeks ago, and a 1992 national championship rematch between the 2 respective programs. And I'm going to go with Duke to win it all. That's going to be my pick to win the national championship this year. Cam Boozer will be too much for Michigan to handle. And I think what makes Duke a special team while they go on a special run this year is because they have the defensive intensity. Players are able to deliver in the clutch. And I do believe Duke is going to have all the key ingredients for success. They got a good rotation of players, and I think they'll win it all. Plus, I just did mention Duke having a tough run. If you guys remember Florida's historic run last year, having a tough region is what makes you a national champion. Beating the best of the best in your way to get to the dance, get to the championship is what makes you a true champion. So I think Duke is going to have a similar run to what Florida had last year, and I think they're going to win another national championship. It's been a long time coming for that program, but I think they're going to win it all. Now, my upsets here, these are the upsets that I have in the first round. So I'm going to go with VCU to defeat North Carolina. That's one of my biggest upsets of round 1. North Carolina did not have a strong showing, in my opinion, in the ACC tournament. North Carolina lost to Clemson. I consider that a upset in the quarterfinals. I don't think North Carolina looks all that good heading in March Madness. And VCU did their job. They had to win the Atlantic 10 Conference to get in. They're riding a wave of momentum. I like their chances to dethrone North Carolina in the first round. Another upset, I got the 12th-seeded Akron. I got Akron defeating the 5th-seeded Texas Tech team in the first round. I got UCLA actually knocking off UConn in the second round. I think UConn has not looked good as of late. Had that 20-point loss to St. John's in their championship tournament game. And I think their front court has been inconsistent all year long. I think there's too many hiccups for UConn to actually go on a run in March Madness this year. I think they stop where they get stopped basically in the same spot they were last year when Florida knocked them out. I think they get stopped in the second round. So I got South Florida, the 11th seed, defeating the 6th seeded Louisville Cardinals. Now, I actually like South Florida's chances to defeat Louisville. I think this might be my upset of the week because they got Wes Ennis and Joseph Pinion. I think those are two good shooters that South Florida has. And Isaiah Nelson, who just won Conference Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in that respective conference, is giving me the reason I should lean towards South Florida to defeat Louisville. And that's going to be a huge upset. Now, those are the upsets that I have heading into the first two rounds. Now, these are my following two sleeper teams to end the segment. I'm going to go with Arkansas. Obviously, in the beginning of the segment, I said I have Arkansas going to the Final Four, but I think they could do much more than that. Now, Arkansas really has a good chance to go on a deep run. Now, Arkansas, again, is my pick to go on to be in the Final Four with Duke, Florida, and Michigan, other number one seeds. But I believe in Arkansas, guys. They got a great backcourt. They got Darius Acuff. I have been following his game for most of the season in the SEC. I mean, this guy averages 22 points per game, six assists with Arkansas, and he just won SEC Player of the Year. So that speaks volumes of how phenomenal of a player he is as a freshman. And they have Malik Thomas as well, and the backcourt as well. He averages 15 points per game, plays very well. The freshman guards are very electric for Arkansas, and they just won the SEC tournament. So they're riding a wave of momentum. John Calipari, one of the best coaches in college basketball, has turned this program around, and he's only been there for 2 years. Like last year, I think they went as far as the Sweet 16, and he has the experience of being a former national champion with Kentucky. So this team is going to be poised to go on a run. I have them going all the way to the Final Four. And my other sleeper team, now this depends on how things play out, how the chips fall. That would have to be St. John. Now, I think if things go the right way for St. John, which I hope that it doesn't because it'll bust my bracket even though I have Duke winning, I do believe there is a chance that St. John could knock off Duke that's dealing with some injuries, possibly in a Sweet 16 matchup, because I think these two teams are going to run into each other, how the Eastern region is playing out. I think Duke and St. John are going to play each other in the Sweet 16. And Rick Pitino, this is a guy that has the experience. He's won everywhere that he's been at. He's brought every program that he's coached in his illustrious Hall of Fame career. He's coached every single program and brought them to March Madness. So this guy has the experience in March. And this is a really good team. St. John, they're a really good full court team defensively. They got a good rotation. They are one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They average around 40 rebounds a game, and they just won their last 12 out of 13 games, just won their conference championship tournament, blowing out UConn by 20 points. So I think those two teams are dangerous. I am really believing in Arkansas based off of the production of their front court, their backcourt, excuse me. Their backcourt, and you always need a closer to win in March. And I know that for my Florida Gators that had Walter Clayton III last year. So I think the experience of St. John, the experience of St. John having Rick Pitino, and they have somewhat experience because I think they got stopped in the Sweet 16 last year. And then John Calipari, with the experience that he's had over the years in March Madness and Arkansas, the way they're on a roll, I think these two teams are really dangerous. But that's my overall look on March Madness. Again, those are my Final Four predictions, my national champion prediction, my upsets for round 1 and round 2, and my sleeper teams heading into March Madness.